Hello friends, Tanya here with another video featuring the Spellbinders Yana's City Holiday release that came out in August 2025. There are, I see, 5 products in this collection, and I'm going to show you how to use all of them. We're going to start out with the Joy or Shadow Joy die set. You can use this in a few different ways. You don't have to use every single piece. You can just use the pieces you want. There is a PDF file that is downloadable on the Spellbinders site showing you how to assemble all of those little shadow pieces. There is a large back shadow and a smaller detail die. This is a pretty chunky greeting, which I love. It will take up most of a card front. I'm just using plain red cardstocks here, but you could use all kinds of specialty cardstocks. You could use patterned paper. You could use watercolor paper that you have made a design on. All kinds of ways to use this. There are some embossed lines on that larger shadow die, and that lines up perfectly with the detailed portion. And you're just going to slide those up to the upper edge and line those up with the embossed lines on the pattern. Now there are a bunch of little pieces that you can add to the shadow backer to create extra dimension. And there are 2 different dies that cut out the extra shadow elements. So you can cut them out of 2 different colors or specialty cardstocks. Now the guide does help you figure out where those go, but I found just using our kind of the puzzle piece method where I just look and see which ones look like they would fit in a spot and trying it out. I thought this was going to be a little more complicated than it was. I used some glitter cardstock for one of the shadow elements, and you could stop at any stage along the way. You don't have to add any of these extra elements, but I think it's really nice to have these extra features available. I mean, if you were creating this, you might think to yourself, oh, it'd be really nice if I could add another contrasting color to this shadow to add extra dimension. You could actually add extra layers to the detailed portion so that the shadow pieces are lower physically. Ooh, I should have done that. I did not. That would have made a very dramatic sentiment. Next time. I'm just adding all of the glitter portions, and then I'll move on to the other color of shadow elements. The specialty cardstock that I'm using here is from the Ruby assorted metallic cardstocks from the Treasured Cardstock Collection. And I'm using the matte red and the, or matte metallic and the glitter cardstock from that Ruby collection. I love the Treasured Cardstock collections. They are so versatile and they last a really long time. I craft a lot and, excuse me, I have been working my way through. First, it was the gold, silver, and rose gold metallics. I have just now finished, I think, 1 pack of the gold and had to open a new pack to get some of the elements that I use more frequently. And same with the rose gold. I'm still working my way through the silver pack, although I am getting close to needing another pack of that. They do last a long time. You use just little bits because a little bit goes a long way on your cards. Now that we have finished the Joy, there are actually 3 stars. They're identical stars and they cut all at once, and that completes that die set. Next, we're going to move on to the City Holiday die set. This is a really fun die set. It creates an A2 sized, well, this will fit on an A2 size card. It'll take all of the real estate on a A2 size card. There are lots of elements that you can mix and match and use in other cards and settings also. There are 3 window treatments. They share the same, well, for this arch-shaped window, there is one large rectangular window that's supposed to be like a shop in the base of a apartment building. This is kind of modeled after the apartment building that Yana lives in, which is kind of cool. Um, I live out in the country, so the thought of living in an apartment building that has a shop in the ground floor, that's kind of charming. There are these side pinned back curtains that you can add, and you layer the curtains behind the window framing, and they just line up with the edge of that arched window backdrop. I chose this peachy color to back our windows. I wanted this soft, sort of neutral toned um, backdrop for this card. I just wanted this soft winter feel to it. And if I had to say, I would say that that peachy color is kind of like Bellini or chiffon from the Color Wheel collection. There is also a little windowsill that you can add. Again, you can use any or all of these components. And then the third version of window treatment, when I was assembling this, thought it looked like shutters, which you could absolutely do. You could even adhere them to the building next to the frame with the curved part towards the window. Then it would look like open shutters. And I thought by adding them to the front over the window frame here, even over the actual window, not next to it, it kind of looked like partially opened window shutters. But really, they're just, I think they were intended to be just straight drapes hanging on the inside of the window. There are indentations on this larger piece that is the base of the building. So it shows you how to get your windows lined up evenly and straight, which is very helpful. So it has space for 6 of these arched windows. And it looks like I forgot to put one of the windowsills on. And so there's 2 rows of 3 windows each. And then the bottom row has a door and a large shop type window. I'm just going to adhere those 3, and then off screen I will adhere the other 3 later. This is the top of the building. It has this really nice framing. I die cut that from some this is probably like the Acorn Color Wheel cardstock. And then I also use some brushed white or the pearl metallic from the antique assorted treasured cardstock. Again, I love that stuff. And I think I glued it to my work surface instead of the house at first, or the apartment building. You don't have to use the snow, but I think it looks really nice. This is that large rectangular shop type window. You could make it a little cafe. You could make it all kinds of things. You could make it someone's just large bay window if this was like a 3-story house instead of an apartment building. And I'm just going to adhere that over the embossed area that shows where the window could go. You can use those embossing marks as just a suggestion. You don't have to place things exactly that way. You could have a big bay window in the middle on the top, wherever you want. You could put the door in the middle with an arched window on each side. Lots of ways to use this. There's also a windowsill for the large rectangular window. The insert for this window, I just so one die cuts the interior and the frame. Same with the door. So you'd have to die cut it twice if you want 2 different colors. And I chose to just use the white here for the door. We're just going to have a white door on our building here. And you just add either the frame first and then pop in the center part, or vice versa. There is not a doorknob here, but you could take a gem or a pearl and add that. There is a snowbank that you can add either in front of or behind, or leave it off completely. There's a front stoop step here, and there's 2 pieces. There's this larger piece that that shows the 2 steps, and then there's another piece that adds some dimension to the lower step and really makes it look like 2 different steps. And that all die cuts on one die. There is a cute little Christmas tree that you can put in a pot. There's a tree trunk, the body of the tree, and there's also a star. Now you can use these in other ways also. Now the die that cuts the tree also cuts a wreath, which we'll assemble here in just a minute. You could put that tree in a door, sorry, in that window too, that large window, or the small windows, however you want to do it. There are a couple of presents that die cut, and there are pieces that you can add to the top of the boxes for the lids on the boxes for an extra fancy gift. I know in my house, when we wrap gifts, it's in a box that doesn't have a lid, just a rectangle of some shape. And I don't put a lot of bows on ours because they get stacked and then the bow gets squished. And yeah, sometimes I put bows on, but not very often. But it's fun to put them on our paper presents. I'm going to set them in the windowsill of this window so it looks like they're on display in the store. The bows are very easy to assemble. They are a single die for each, as are the ribbon crossing or wrapping. There's also these fun swags. I'm going to add them to this large window here. You can use these in a variety of ways. I did use 2 different colors of plain red cardstock to die cut some of these elements, and I'll be using both of them. Here is that wreath I was talking about. I'm trying to figure out where I want this best, and since I don't want to see that joining without a bow, we're going to place a bow right over the intersection of those 2 swags in the middle of our wreath. You could put the wreath on the door, on the windows. You could have a series of wreaths on all of the windows. At the top of the building, lots of fun places to place that. So there's our swag. We're going to actually add the cute little cat and dog that come in this die set. We're going to have our cat perched on a windowsill, but first I'm going to add another swag underneath where the cat is going to sit. I thought that would be a cute addition. We'll just glue our cat. It's very easy to line that up on the windowsill and have its tail. I can just picture the cat sitting there twitching its tail at the dog that's staring up at him. And that dog just looks like he or she is so eager to go play with that kitty who's very suspicious of the dog's intent. That's the story I'm telling myself anyway. We're going to add another swag to another window. I've seen these swags used on the top of the building all the way across. You'd cut one of the tails off of one of those swags to add to the middle. And you can add wreaths in between or bows or both. This is such a fun, customizable die set. I just love all of those elements. And you could use those elements in so many different ways outside of an apartment or house building. Next, we're going to put together the Christmas cracker die set. This is fun. Christmas crackers are kind of maybe a European or English thing, but they are really cute. I have a few die sets that I have made crackers with, and this one is by far the simplest and quite elegant. There's also a bunch of greenery in this die set, which I love me some good greenery. It is great to build scenes and add extra life to your projects. Adding greenery and flowers just really jazzes things up. Our berries have 2 layers. I did 2 different colors of red here, a lighter and a darker. And the lighter is going on the backer to shine through that little hole in the berry. There are 3 different sized berries, and you can add them however you would like on this branch, which has has a little stem for each of these berries with a little circle on the end for you to add your glue. I love that they've added these spots with just a little extra space to add our berries. There is an extra berry here. There are 4 different sizes apparently that die cut, but you're going to use the berries for another item. We have 2 different styles of pine boughs that cut with this die set. And then we also have mistletoe or holly berries, hollyberry branch, and a cluster of holly berries. And according to the PDF printout, and you don't have to do this, you can do whatever configuration you want. The extra berry is actually for this little cluster of leaves that you create. Now you could add those to the branch of holly also. We have a banner die that cuts the banner, and then you have a drop-in die that adds the sentiment, and then this string of pearls or garland. Now, putting the cracker together is super easy. You just have to make sure that your pieces are lined up correctly. There is a backer and a drop-in die that cuts out the details with some holes that are cut in so that the background shows through. I'm just going to adhere those together. And then there is a little scalloped detail to add to each end of this cracker. Now the crackers, my understanding, is like a party popper. You pull on them and it makes a cracking noise, and candy, I believe, falls out of it. It's really cute. Anybody that has experience with those, leave me a comment below. Tell me what you know about them. It sounds like a really fun tradition or feature for Christmas activities. These are very easy to assemble. You just add a line of glue along that paper, and I think I used plain white. Let me look at my cracker. Nope, I used the pearl metallic from the antique treasured cardstock collection. And then I'm using some glitter cardstock from the gold assortment of treasured cardstock. I used the pearl metallic and the glitter from the gold. I used the glitter for the bows, and I used the glitter and the pearl metallic for the little garlands, which those came in surprisingly handy. Now that I have pushed all of the extra stuff out of the bows, we're going to add those to the part of the cracker that is tied shut, and that looks so cute. Next, we're going to use the Christmas Cheer Sentiments Better Press set. I'm going to foil them because I just love foiling. I love foiling so much. Better pressing is amazing. I love to do that too, but foiling really has my heart. This is my favorite method of doing foiling sentiments. I add a piece of copy paper that is A2 sized on my platform, lay out my sentiment plates, and then I can line up the paper that I'm going to foil on with that paper in the back. This is my my organization. When I cut multiple extras of something, this is more appropriate or more needed for dies and better press plates that cut multiple at once. But those are gorgeous and I use them a ton. Next, we have the Happiest Holidays Better Press Registration Set. And I am doing, this is an experiment for me. I had not tried this. I decided to use the Better Press registration sheet on my platform, and we're just going to see if this works out. I've done my holiday part, the large part, in, I think that was polished brass, and now we have, is it called Viridian or green? It's the green foil, solid green foil, and I foiled the leaves with that. And so far, so good. I'm just using sort of the same method I do with the typing paper with my foil plates, but this registration plate shows me where to land all of the pieces. Now, the registration plate doesn't, or sorry, the clear acetate with all of the markings to help me line all this up perfectly, it doesn't seem to warp. It did, I did make 2 more after this, so it was on there hot for a long time. Oh, look at that. The berries. Oh, this turned out so perfect. I love it so much that I did it 2 more times. I did it in, this is espresso, copper, and blush foils on craft cardstock. I can't wait to use all of these. I only use one of them in this video though. This one is satin gold, moon dust, and pink foils. That's gorgeous too. Oh, I'm just, now I need to play with it with the Better Press system too, which is the same method. You just don't have to add heat. You use ink instead. Now for card number 1, we're going to use the Mirrored Arches label die set. I'm using the gold assortment of treasured cardstock, and I'm using the pearl metallic metallic cardstock to die cut an arch. We're also going to use the 5x7 Matting Basics Set B die because we're going to make a 5x7 card, and we're going to use the next size up of the Mirrored arch label. We're going to dry emboss the Holly and Foliage 3D embossing folder on the frame that we create, because we're only using the negative portions of these mirrored arch labels. You can see that beautiful embossing. Now that embossing folder was from, I think, last year or the year before of Yana's collections. I love that collection still. I would have been using the foil and stencil combination, but the stencil's been sold out for a while. Yeah, and I know how hard it is when I use things that are not available anymore. It makes people want things that we can't get anymore, and that's hard. Let me know in the comments below and tell me how you feel about people using things that are not available anymore. Maybe you have it in your stash so it doesn't bother you, or it inspires you to use things that are similar in your collection. Maybe you just don't want to see things that you can't get. That would be fair too. So now I've layered the gold on the white, and then we'll center this up on the black Happiest Holidays hot foiled sentiment. And that turned out so nice. I do love a good black, white, and gold combo. It's very elegant. I added some extra cardstock layers at the top and bottom to even out our layers, and then I'm adhering it to a 5x7 heavyweight white cardstock base. Then for the inside of the card, we are going to add one of the sentiments from the Christmas Cheer Sentiments. I use this Better Press and die set on all of the cards in this video, and there are 4 cards in this video. This one says, let me open up the card in front of me. So we've got Happiest Holidays on the front and Season's Greetings from Our House to Yours. Now this sentiment will work great with that apartment or house die set, which I'm sure is why she created it. Next, we're going to use the Geo Snowflakes foil plate. This came out with Cinnamon Hurley's collection, I think 2 years ago, and I still love this. I think it is a wonderful snowflake pattern that doesn't have to look like snowflakes. It would work great with any watercoloring or ink blending techniques also, and I've used it in both ways. I'm going to foil this entire sheet of 8.5 by 5.5 inch white cardstock. This happens to be Hammermill 80-pound cardstock, and it foils beautifully. The trick with opal foil is remembering which side is the pretty side. And when I do it, I lay the roll, I unroll it with the pretty side up, cut the piece I'm going to use, and I keep it with the pretty side up, and I try to remember to do that, or you'll foil your plate. It's not the end of the world, but you'll have to foil again. And I did create some black marks on my plate so it would be easy to line this geometric pattern up. Now I'm using a dry paintbrush to remove all of the overfoiling, and opal foil does tend to overfoil more than most of the foils, and that's okay. The finished effect is just beautiful. This just easily knocks off all of that extra foils that isn't truly stuck to your paper. Look at that. Oh, and I didn't even try that hard to line it up. Those black marks on the back of the plate made a big difference. We're going to use the 5x7 Matting Basics Set B to die cut our panel for the front of the card. I've added some extra cardstock on the back for a little stability and a little depth and dimension. And we'll adhere that to our 5x7 card base. I do have an extra piece of that foiled paper, and we're going to use that on the inside of the card in a little bit. Once I have that adhered, I am going to move on to the city holiday house that we built earlier. And I'm going to first apply the snowbank. So I'm going to measure where the edge of the foiled panel is, marked it with just my pointy pokey tool, and then I'm going to flip it over and use my little guillotine trimmer to trim off that extra before I adhere that down to our panel. And I'm going to line that up with the bottom edge of the foiled matted basic die cut area. just going to use some Barely Arts Precision Glue in my fine tip glue bottle here, or fine line bottle. I love that. It's such a convenient way to apply my glue. I have the most control and the least hand fatigue from this bottle. I've added some extra cardstock on the back of the house, of course, to add some extra dimension. And this is still a pretty flat card. Next, we're going to take a sentiment from Christmas Cheer Sentiments. I have foiled this in some polished brass on craft cardstock and then die cut it with the coordinating die. I added an extra layer of cardstock that I die cut with that same die and will adhere that below the house on the front of the card. I love how this house fills the entire card front. I really don't have to think any more about the scene than the house and a sentiment. Next, we're going to take another sentiment from the Christmas Cheer Sentiments, and I have foiled that also in the polished brass on craft cardstock. I'm going to take our scrap of Opal Geo Snowflake foiled cardstock. I think it's about 1.5 inches wide. And I'm just going to adhere that to the center of the inside of the card and trim off the extra off the edge. Next, we'll adhere our sentiment in the middle of that banner. And once that's dry, we're going to add another cat and dog on the inside. I thought that would be just the perfect pairing with the sentiment and the background element on the inside of the card. You could put a tree, you could put the gifts, you could put swag, you could put the wreath in there. There are lots of great ways you could bring the design of the front of the card to the inside of the card. I just really like the kitty and the puppy. And there's a close-up look of that. For card number 3, we're going to bring in some Distress Oxide. Here we've got saltwater taffy that I'm going to start with. We'll use the worn lipstick here in a minute. I have a large piece of cardstock that's big enough for me to cut down into a 5x7 front for our card. Yes, I am on a 5x7 card kick. I really love that size. And the paper crafting companies are making more and more things that fit 5x7 very nicely, which I love because it truly is my favorite size of card. Once again, we're going to use the 5x7 Matting Basics Set B die, the largest die in that set. And we're going to pull out the 3D embossing folder called Branches. Now, this particular embossing folder also has a coordinating die that will cut out one of those branches. So if you wanted extra detail, you could get that. So I'm going to apply some Distress Oxide in worn lipstick on here. I'm just rubbing it all over and then I'm tapping it to make sure I get good coverage. Now, I had about a month ago re-inked all of my ink pads, so they're all nice and juicy. I love that. So we'll run this through the die cut machine, and I think that that's good. It adds some darker color to the background, and I've been on a foundry wax kick lately. I hadn't used this in probably almost a year, but man, I love this stuff. So I'm just taking a little bit of the foundry wax and I'm adding it to mostly to the raised portions, but I'm going for a slightly distressed look here anyway. And if you don't put it on thick enough, it won't melt and turn shiny. You have to use your heat tool on the foundry wax in order to set it. Otherwise, it gets powdery and can rub off of your project. Now, to clean my finger, I just use a little water in my microfiber cloth, and it's clean and lickety split. Now, I'm using my heat tool to melt the foundry wax. Now, this is the gilded, so it's kind of gold, and it goes with the rest of this theme. There are 4 colors of foundry wax, and you buy them in sets of 2. I think it is gold and silver together, and copper, and oh gosh, now I can't remember the other color. Brass, maybe? But there are 4 metallic colors of foundry wax, and it's very fun to play with, and it's not very expensive. And I've had mine for over a year, and it's performing very well. There we go. There are our branches gilded. I've added extra cardstock behind this panel, which has definitely been through its put through its paces. It's been ink blended, it's been 3D embossed, and it had the gilding, foundry wax gilding. So I wanted to make sure that it would not warp on the card. Plus, I always put extra cardstock on the back. Let's not kid ourselves. Next, I'm pulling in the Christmas cracker, and we're going to use one of the mirror arch labels that we die cut for the first card, the fallout piece, the positive. Yeah, we'll call it the positive. I've laid this out approximately how it's going to end up finished. I added extra cardstock behind some scraps behind that mirrored arch label die. And we'll center that on our panel. And then I'm going to take these little garlands or strings of pearls, bead garlands, yeah. And I'm going to adhere that to the top part of the arch here, just creating a nice little backdrop. Just going to have it start and end on the edge. And you could do this all the way around. You could keep adding these garlands. That would be a really fun background too. So we've got the pearl metallic and we have the gold metallic, or sorry, gold glitter from the gold assorted treasured cardstock collection. And now I have added a little bit of extra cardstock behind this Christmas cracker because I want to be tucking all kinds of foliage behind it. We've got one of each kind of the pine boughs here. I'm just adding a little glue down the center of these pine branches. Don't worry about getting glue on all of the parts of it. Just a little bit will do ya. And I'm trying to make sure that the pine branches don't overextend the edge of the card. Next we have, I wonder if this branch of berries, I don't know if it's not mistletoe, because mistletoe is kind of a cluster and holly is the branch, like 2 or 3 berries on a couple of leaves. Sometimes I get mistletoe and holly a little mixed up though. Next, we're going to add our holly branch and the cluster. I'm just trying to achieve some balance and interest and cover most of that. Now, you could put this Happy Holidays banner in a few different places, but I kind of liked it above the cracker. I didn't want to cover up too much of that cracker. It's so pretty. I really like it. You could, if you had a small enough sentiment, I imagine you could stamp something on the center portion of that cracker too. Decided I needed a little more foliage, so I grabbed another branch of berries and we'll just tuck that in to fill that out a little more. And I have added extra cardstock scraps behind the Happy Holidays to add a little more height on that. Dimension, it makes so much difference. And this is still pretty flat. This would absolutely be a mailable card. On the inside of the card, we're going to add some more elements and another sentiment from Christmas Cheer Sentiments. Now this one is going to read, "At Christmas time and all year through, so thankful to have great friends like you." That's really a cool sentiment. I love that it's not just family oriented, but chosen family also. So we'll adhere that sentiment to the inside of the card. And then we'll take one of those little banners and glue that below the sentiment. And then we'll take our greenery pieces, and I decided I wanted the pine bough that is arching in the opposite direction. And we'll adhere those, framing up our sentiment. Just adding little dots of glue on the stem and the berries and the leaves. And then for the pine bough, again, just a line of glue down the center of the branch. Tuck that in. Make sure it's not overlapping the fold line on this card, so it won't interfere with the card closing. There's a quick close-up of the inside of our card. Oh, I just love how that background turned out. Yeah. All right, for our fourth card, we're going to pull in the Falling Stars Better Press Plate. I have a piece of cardstock that I've trimmed down just a bit, and we're going to use the Lisa Horton Cloud 9 metallic inks in solid gold. So the panel I have cut down is 4 by 5¼ inches. And I've laid the plate inside the A2 size lines. And now that I have this better pressed, we're going to run it through the coordinating embossing folder called Wishing Stars. So this will emboss stars in between the foil, or sorry, not foil, well, you could foil them, the better pressed stars. You just line it up in the bottom portion of the embossing folder, and there it is. Look at those gorgeous deep stars. So I had done this on a piece of watercolor cardstock, so I would get the most out of the better pressing and the embossing. So we've created the background for our A2 size card, and now we'll pull in the Shadow Joy die that we created earlier. So we've got all our layers created. Now it's just time to add it to a card. I am going to add a couple layers of white cardstock that are cut with the background shadow die. And that cuts it cuts not only the joy word, but it also cuts the tittle. So we'll be able to add that very easily. And that's large enough you don't lose the tittle so easily. So I'm just going to add those extra layers of white cardstock behind that also. Very easy to do. Just making sure that it's all lined up. And now we'll center that on the front of our card and adhere that to the embossed background panel. I think this really fits. And of course, the inspiration for me to use the star background was the fact that there are stars included in the die set. Now, I was going to originally use those gold glitter stars, but I decided to use a sentiment from the Christmas Cheer Sentiments Better Press plate set. And I'm going to use the thin one that says, "Have a holly jolly Christmas," and put that over the top of joy. I thought that was a really great pairing. The jolly and the joy seem to go very well together. And the cursive style fonts used for the die and for the sentiment are both, they coordinate fairly well. They're not the same, but they do look good together. Now that we've finished the outside of the card, let's look at the inside of the card. We're going to add this sentiment that I've glimmer foiled and die cut with the coordinating die. And this says, "Merry everything and happy always." Oh no, merry everything and a happy always. We'll adhere those glitter glitter stars to the inside. And that really does a good job of bringing the design of the front of the card to the inside of the card. And that's the fourth card in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun playing with all of the elements and cannot wait to finish making more cards with that glimmer foiled large sentiment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do that now. That would be a great way to support my channel. Liking, commenting, subscribing, those are all great ways to help support my channel and help me keep bringing you more projects. If you're interested in any of the products that I use today, check that description box below. There will be a link with all of the products that are available with links to those products. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.